If you've been in the market for an electric pickup truck, your options have been somewhat limited. You could have the GMC Hummer, you could have the Rivian R1T, more recently you could have a Tesla Cybertruck, but now you can have another option from General Motors, the Chevrolet Silverado EV. I am out in Detroit driving a new version of the Silverado EV. This is the RST. This is actually the first of the more consumer-oriented versions of the Silverado EV. To that vehicle's left, I actually have the Silverado EV work truck. Now, this has actually been on sale for quite a while. They haven't produced all that many of these, but this is a work truck, whereas this is meant to be a truck that you can kind of live with every day. So in this video, we are going to talk about some of the main differences. We're going to drive the Silverado RST and figure out whether or not it's a better truck than the ones that I mentioned earlier from Ford, Tesla, and Rivian. So let's start off with the styling. The thing that you're going to notice is that the Silverado EV is not just a Silverado with a battery. It is a ground up different vehicle. You can tell that from the front. It has this much smoother shape to it than what you're gonna get from a gas powered Silverado 1500. It's not like the Ford F-150 Lightning, which shares most of its body panels and all of that with the regular F-150. We've got this connected light bar that looks really cool while it's illuminated here on the RST model. You can see on the work truck model, you just have normal headlights that have a split to them, and we have this plastic grille here with the normal colored Chevy bow tie. You can tell that the lower areas are a lot different here on the RST versus the work truck. You get a lot more black plastic cladding than what you're going to get here on the RST. Now the work truck has plastic panels as well here on the sides. You also get kind of normal 18-inch black wheels with a quite a lot of sidewall here. Whereas on the RST, you are going to get industry exclusive 24-inch wheels. That is a 24-inch wheels. And the craziest part about it is it doesn't even look all that massive because of how big the Silverado is, which is really crazy to me. But this is a very, very big wheel indeed. We've got the Silverado logo here. You can see that the E is this little Ultium logo. So you're gonna start to see that on a lot of Chevy electric branded vehicles. You can see it a little bit better here against the white of this work truck. Now Chevy actually tells me that the work truck is really only available in white right now. And this RST First Edition, which is what they're calling it for the 2024 model year, is only available in black. So there really aren't any colors on these. Both of these are going to be crew cabs, of course. And we've got a pretty nice sized bed. You can see here on the work truck, we have just kind of our normal tailgate. We've got our little Ultium badge here. And we do have some connected power here in the back. We can get 240 volts off of that as well. I believe that is part of an optional package here. Now here on the RST, we've got side bumps on both little side steps helping us get in the vehicle. But here we have the multi-flex tailgate. So there's a couple ways that we can drop this down. So you can just do that portion. You can click that button. You should be able to do both at the same time. Like normal, we do have the tonneau cover here as well. And then Chevy has actually brought back a very popular feature that they used to offer on the Avalanche, which is the midgate. So to use the midgate, you're going to lift the seats forward like so. And then I believe you pull this, which is going to allow you to drop down these rear seats. Got to fold the headrests so that those don't bump in, and then that goes down like that. And then as you can see here, you've got this mid-gate portion that you can actually go ahead and collapse, and that will actually extend into the bed, giving you a ton of storage space. If you have something long like a canoe or skis or whatever, longer amount of space than you're gonna get in pretty much any other pickup truck. You can also remove this glass piece as well. I'll try to get you some B-roll footage of that as well. and how to do that. So that is a really unique feature that you're only going to get here on the Silverado EV. I believe that the GMC Sierra EV is going to bring it as well, but that might be something to consider if you're shopping the Chevy versus the other EVs in the segment. Now I'm actually going to start on the interior with the work truck. Now this is a WT4 version, so it is like the most expensive work truck. This exact one is like $80,000, which is really expensive for a work truck. You have this kind of plain leather seat. I'm not sure if it's vinyl or leather, but it does kind of feel decently nice, nicer than most work truck vinyls. You do have rubberized floors in here as well. And you have a very simple cabin with a very simple steering wheel. You've got a small gauge cluster here, a decently sized screen, although this giant bezel around it makes it look a little bit smaller than it actually is, but you still get some buttons down here. I'm going to go ahead and shut the door so we get rid of the GM chime. We do have a little storage cubby right here. You have a lot of space under here because there is no transmission tunnel. You can lift this up and see that it is all connected. You can actually lift out these cup holders to get a little bit more space if you don't need your cup holders. But yeah, it's a pretty simple interior here on the work truck. Back seat as well. Pretty simple. Because this one does not have the mid gate, you have a more conventional back seat that you can just go ahead and lift up to get some flat storage, but you do at least get air vents back here. You also get some USB-C ports. I don't think there are any USB-A ports on any of these trucks, which is kind of interesting. So a little bit more of a conventional back seat here on the work truck. Now, as we hop inside the RST First Edition, this truck is much more expensive. This is about a $95,000 truck all in. You're going to get nicer leather seats. You've got this red and blue stitching and piping combination. These are heated and ventilated seats as well. We also get a slightly nicer floor with carpeting here underneath these rubber floor mats. You're also going to notice that the screen setup is quite a lot nicer. You might have noticed I'm not hitting a start button. Much like a Tesla, this thing just starts up when you go ahead and put your foot on the brake, so you don't actually have to hit the start button. You get this giant, I believe it's a 17-inch screen, where it does not actually have Apple CarPlay. It is Google powered, but this is one of the first GM vehicles that does not have Apple CarPlay, which is a little annoying. You might not want to consider it because of that, but the Google interface is quite good, I do want to say. You also get a bigger, nicer gauge cluster as well. I apologize for how dusty it is. You get a much nicer armrest that's going to read Silverado First Edition. You get a decent amount of storage under there. You can actually push a little button to slide back this whole cup holder array to get some more storage down here. You've got a cool little depiction. Let me see if I can tone down the light here, of kind of like an old school Chevy truck leading into the new Silverado EV with a wireless charging pad up there. So this is definitely a much nicer cabin. I'm not a big fan of this giant piece of glass here. There is no shade to cover that. There's no electrochromic way to darken it. It is just the level that it is. So if you live somewhere hot, like in Florida where I live, little bit annoying to me. Now, in addition to the storage in the bed that I showed you, because there's no engine under the hood, we also have what Chevy calls the E-trunk. I believe it's about 10 cubic feet in here, a little bit smaller than what you're gonna get in the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is kind of funny because this is the one that was built as the dedicated EV, but the Lightning's is a little bit wider, at least to my eye, but I'm pretty sure the Lightning has a little bit more storage space than this as well. You do get some power outlets in here as well. Honestly, I'm not complaining about the size. It is still plenty big. It does power open as well, and it is some nice additional storage if you don't want to go ahead and put everything in the normal bed. All right, so now let's hop behind the wheel of the Silverado EV, and before we get it out on the road, Chevy has actually brought us to this private testing facility so that we can test out its WOW feature. I'm not joking, it's actually called WOW. That stands for Wide Open Watts. So I'm going to push this button. It's going to make this cool noise, and that's going to unlock the full power of the Silverado EV, because you don't actually get full power without wide open watts. So now the dual motors in this truck are producing 754 horsepower and 785 pound-feet of torque. That's more than any Silverado ever made. This is the most powerful Silverado ever, which means that this roughly 9,000 pound truck can hit 60 miles an hour in a Chevy estimated 4.5 seconds. So let's test that claim right now, shall we? Whoa! Moving around a little. There's 60. Woo! All right. Now, my onboard testing equipment is telling me that we just hit 60 in 4.33 seconds. And in a previous run, we got it in 4.32 seconds. And I have a passenger with me. We've got our bags with us. So I have no doubts that it could do it even quicker. We're only at 74% battery charge right now. So I think if we were closer to 100, it might even do quicker than that. So Chevy's claim of 4.5 seconds to 60, 100% accurate. In fact, the truck is actually quicker than Chevy claims. Wow, indeed. All right, so now let's get the Silverado EV out on the proper road and talk about some of the more important aspects of the vehicle, because 0 to 60s are all fun and games, but I think that truck owners care a little bit more about more than just how quickly their pickup truck can accelerate. Now, the most important thing to know about the Silverado EV is that it has better range than any other electric pickup truck on the market, bar none. In fact, it's better than most sedans. That's because it has an absolutely gigantic 215 kilowatt hour battery. That's actually a little bit bigger than the one in the Hummer, although they're pretty similar. That's going to enable a 440 mile driving range on this RST model. If you get the work truck, you can actually get that up to 450 miles. Game changing. This isn't the most efficient truck. I'm only averaging about 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is really not even that much better than what you're going to get in the Hummer. But because the battery is so big, it enables that extremely long driving range. Now, recouping that big of a battery is more of a problem, because even if you're on a DC fast charger, that is a lot of battery to replenish. Now, good thing this thing can actually charge at 350 kilowatts. That's pretty much the fastest charging that you can get currently in America. That's going to add about 100 miles of range in just 10 minutes of charging. So if you're going about 200 or 300 miles, 20 or 30 minutes, you should be good to go. You might not get to full because it's going to slow down at 80%, but that is really good. This thing can also charge pretty quickly at home, but again, with that size battery, you're going to be waiting a while. That's the real reason you're going to buy the Silverado EV, because if I'm being 100% honest on how it drives, kind of a mixed bag. So we've got rear wheel steering that is really nice. It's going to make this very large truck feel a lot more maneuverable than it otherwise should be. If you need to do a U-turn, a 3-point turn, you're trying to park in Costco's or Trader Joe's, wherever, this is going to be so much better than a Ford F-150 Lightning. That thing is just really, really terrible at turning, especially in a 3-point U-turn situation. So this is definitely better in that respect. It rides pretty well too, even though it's on 24-inch wheels. That's because it has standard air suspension, so it does ride quite nice, but it is really loud in here. I'm getting a lot of road noise, maybe partially because of the 24-inch wheels, and a little bit of wind noise, not quite as much as what I experienced in the Hummer EV with its flat windshield, but it's definitely not quiet in here for an EV, and that might be something that would deter you from something like, say, the Ford F-150 Lightning. There's also some other really weird things, like when I look at that right mirror and I'm trying to merge into traffic or make a right turn, it feels like it's warped, like a carnival ride. This mirror doesn't do it, that one does. Just some weird GM weirdness there. Now I need to turn around, so let's sample that amazing turning radius that I just told you about. We did have a little bit of extra room on the road here, but wow, no 3-point turn necessary. In an F-150 Lightning, I would have had to go into reverse there. In terms of the power, it does get up to speed really quickly. We already saw what it can do with wide open watts. It doesn't feel quite as quick when you don't have that turned on, but unlike the GMC Hummer's watts to freedom, which requires a lot of sitting and waiting and has to lower, it has to do all of this stuff, you can just flip on wide open watts whenever you want, and then whoo-hoo! It does feel significantly quicker with that mode turned on. You can also hear when I mashed the accelerator there. I'm going to go ahead and slow down so I can go ahead and do that again. Whoa! It makes a lot of noise. It does squiggle around a little bit on the road. I currently have it in my mode, which has the sport steering, which really does add a lot of weight and heft to the steering. Whoa! It does accelerate quite quick, but something that I noticed that this doesn't do, that the Hummer did, was whoa, it would really back squat. The front would lift up as if the whole front end was about to take off the ground. This doesn't do that. So it's not quite as savage of a launch as Watts to Freedom, but I think that wide open Watts is actually a more usable feature that people will actually use more than just a gimmick to show their friends. And of course, we also have GM's Super Cruise technology, meaning that I can drive hands-free on certain roads. That's a really nice feature as well. The Ford F-150 Lightning does have Blue Cruise, which is very similar as well. So with 450 miles of range and Super Cruise, this is probably, or not probably, it is the best highway EV truck because of how far you can go and how mostly comfortably you can do it. Although I really think GM needs to do something about the road noise in here. Something else I noticed is this thing has a hum, right? It's apparently federally mandated. It has to make a noise for pedestrians. But when you're just sitting at idle, you can just hear it, whoa, 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 whoa. Very annoying. I've never heard it in any other EVs before, including GM ones. I'm wondering if it's because the sound isn't very well insulated in here that I'm just hearing more of it come into the cabin. It got on my last nerve. I had to turn the radio up. Be sure to drive one of these before you buy, because there are some oddities to it. All right, so that's going to wrap up our time with the Chevrolet Silverado EV. We're going to talk briefly about pricing, but unfortunately, I don't really have the full picture of what the Silverado EV lineup is going to look like. Right now, you can get a work truck, I believe, starting in the $70,000 range, the low $70,000 range. This WT4 model with the big battery is about $80,000, and this RST model is about $95,000, although I do believe you can option this to over 100 grand. So these are very expensive, even when compared to some of the other electric pickup trucks on the market. It's more expensive than the Rivian. It's higher than the Ford F-150 Lightning can get. It's less expensive than the GMC Hummer, which is a little bit more of an exotic off-road product. So it does have the Hummer beat on price within the GM family, but there are some less expensive electric pickup trucks that you can buy. Let's talk about the pros. That range, 450 miles, beats everything. There's nothing with an electric powertrain and a bed that can get you even close to that. And there's not even very many electric vehicles, period, that can get that kind of range. It drives pretty well. It's pretty comfortable. But as we noted on the road, it is quite loud, which is not great. And there are some quality things that I'm a little bit not impressed by. I thought when I drove the GMC Hummer that GM would kind of learn from that vehicle and make a vehicle that was kind of closer to what you get in a gas-powered GM vehicle, and this just doesn't feel like that. I've been in Silverados that feel better built on the inside, and I've been in GMC Sierras that feel better built on the inside. I'm curious to see the GMC Sierra EV Denali that's coming out. That's going to be a little bit more luxurious, but it is going to be even more expensive. So I'm just not really sure who the target market for this is right now, because if you can afford to get even the work truck, which is like $80,000, you can probably afford to get a normal Silverado 15 High Country and just eat the money on gasoline, because it is going to take quite a while with how expensive these two trucks are to save the money by using electricity instead of gasoline. So it is a little bit of a weird market at the moment, but if you are in the market for an electric truck and you need the one with the best range, the Silverado EV is definitely it. I really hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2024 Chevy Silverado EV. For more videos like it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.